'Tis the old ship of Zion. 'Tis the old ship of Zion. 'Tis the old ship of Zion. Get on board, get on board. I was lost in sin and sorrow on an island life's dark sea. When I saw far in the distance there a ship it seemed to be, then I saw the captain beckon as he called out loud and clear, I have come, my child, to save you. Step on board and follow me. There's no danger in the water. There's no danger in the water. There's no danger in the water. Get on board. Get on
We're on. All right, everybody. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Facebook. Jeff Arrington coming to you again here from, actually, we're in Bristol, Virginia. We're not in Scott County this time. Usually we're in the studio, but we are doing our first in-person interview. And I'm going to go ahead and just say right out, so if anybody hears an echo online, please let us know. We've got someone monitoring the comments. We've got kind of a backup plan if that happens. It's our first time doing a joint session interview. We have Senator Amanda Chase with us today. And it's been a long day on the campaign road. So we're not going to do a lot of time chatting, but I want to do a brief introduction. We know you guys have been looking forward to this interview. We've certainly been looking forward to the interview. And we just want to jump right into it. So we've got an echo. There is an echo. Okay, so we may just go to that just for one camera. So
you may want to leave it in the sound. It looks like we're really far.
Yeah, if that's the case, Joe. We're just going to modify real quick. So there is an echo online? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll tell you what let's do. I'm going to just turn this off.
See how far away we are.
Yeah, Jason, if you'll just scoot the other camera up here. Put it back on there. Okay. There we go. Much better. All right. So stick away. Let's turn that off. And now there's no echo. Okay. So this time so we have no up close camera. So we're going to try to get fancy with the cameras, but as you guys know, we just roll with it, and that's what we do. We just make it work. So without further delay, Senator Amanda Chase, so born in Sheffield, Alabama, grew up in Bon Air, Virginia. I got this off of Wikipedia. I hope it's accurate. Virginia Tech graduate. I understand your initial career was in the financial sector. Transitioned over into campaign management, I believe, helping some folks do some campaigns. And then zoning issues got you involved in politics, local politics, of course, first, and eventually leading you to becoming the senator of the 11th district in 2015. And now here we are in 2020, moving on to the governor's race. So for those of you who may not know much about Amanda, I just wanted to throw that there. Is there anything, what did I miss that you'd like for our viewers to know?
Well, I just appreciate, first of all, Jeff, the opportunity to talk to your audience and answer any questions they have. You know, one of the things that I've prided myself on in being in the state senate is being transparent. And I co-founded the Transparency Caucus, and even had a radio show called Cut to the Chase with Senator Chase. And it was a call-in show where people could call in, ask their questions. I believe in transparent. I believe we work for the people and we should be accountable to the people. And in order to do that, I made myself available to the press. All the press has my cell phone number. I do lots of, I can't think of any press interviews that I've ever turned down. I always try to honor people who are trying to provide news and information to the people of Virginia, and welcome that opportunity. But I just want to say, you know, I'm a fighter of the people, and just appreciate the opportunity to tell people why I'm running for governor, why I think I'm the best candidate for governor. And there's a lot we could talk about tonight, so I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. All right. And for our viewers online, we do have some questions that we pulled from some of our audience. So that's where a lot of the questions come from. Not all of them, of course. And again, as you guys know, we just wing it. So there may be questions that come up along the way.
Sure.
And if that happens, guys, if you do have any questions, we've got someone monitoring the comments, but we know that can get off topic really quick. So post your comments, and Jason, if something really pertinent comes up, bring it to light. Otherwise, we might have a follow-up interview, maybe, you know, sometime down the road. So.
Sure.
Okay, so starting out, let's talk about the previous session, the emergency session is what we call. What are some general topics that were covered that you think folks should be aware of that came from the last session?
Well, let me just first of all generalize by saying this. This session was supposed to be about addressing the budget shortfall. That's what it was supposed to be about, mainly. Now, there are 3 topics in the rules that we were supposed to discuss: police reform, criminal justice reform, and COVID. That was our purview. Those were the guardrails that were put up before the Senate of Virginia. Now, what I will also tell you is the Senate has rules which are very different from the House rules. We operate and work very, very differently. And so any Senate bills that you see that originate in the Senate will start with an SB, Senate bill. Any bills that begin in the House chamber begin with HB. And it's important to know where a bill originates, because in the Senate, we focus on Senate bills until they cross over. And we do have some bills, obviously, that have crossed over to the Senate. And as you all probably saw this week, we did pass the budget. I did vote against it for a number of reasons. But if I could summarize this General Assembly reconvened session, it would be this. First of all, the GOP has no control at this point in time over what happens in the legislature. We lost control of the House, we've lost control of the Senate, and the governor will sign whatever they want into law. No different than session. And we didn't have the votes, or we did not have the number of Republicans we would need in order to not show up. In other words, so that they couldn't have a quorum. I believe at this point in juncture in time that any time the General Assembly meets, it's not good for liberty, because that means that the Marxists, which I call openly, I truly believe with all my heart that the Democratic Party has been hijacked by Marxists and socialists. There is a war on America. There's a war on our way of life. There's a war on everything we know to be about our Constitution, not only the U.S. Constitution and the Virginia Constitution. There's an attack. I do believe that Governor Ralph Northam is bought and paid for by Soros and Bloomberg. I believe that he sold out to them, and in exchange for delivering to him control of the legislature, I believe in return he is beholden to Soros and Bloomberg, who want to destroy our way of life. And they're doing it systematically, not just in Virginia, but across the United States of America. And, you know, everything that we're seeing going on in that General Assembly, if we could describe it in one word, is insanity. It's insanity. It is, our world as we know it has been turned upside down. And that's why I always make the comment, if the liberal Democrats, the Marxists, didn't have a double standard, they'd have none at all. It's true. For them, this is really nothing about, I really believe there's no parties anymore. There's no Democratic Party. This is about America versus freedom and prosperity. Let's just talk about some of those bills. We talked about police reform. There was a bill designed to defund the police.
Mhm.
This has never, ever been a topic that Virginians talk about. In the past, Republicans and Democrats both agreed that public safety is extremely important to protecting our public safety, protecting our way of life. And that's not the way it is right now. The Marxists are siding with the criminals over the law-abiding citizens. Take a look at session back in January. Who did they go after with the 2A legislation? They went after law-abiding citizens, whether we're talking about denying due process with red flag laws, whether it's implementing universal background checks, where you are basically creating an environment where the government can know how many guns you have and what kind you have. That's not their business. The whole reason we have the Second Amendment, as you know, and patriots know, is to defend ourselves against tyrants, both domestic and foreign. And I would argue we have a domestic tyrant sitting in our governor's mansion,
I agree completely.
and he needs to go. So there was an all-out attack this session on our law enforcement.
Mhm.
We denied them, not me, but they
strong arms. They strong arm.
They took away the tools that law enforcement has to protect and defend themselves. Every bill that they passed, if I could create a theme, would be they do not support law enforcement. It's an all-out attack on law enforcement, which is our second line of defense. During our regular session in January, they went after our first line of defense,
Mhm.
which is our Second Amendment right. During this session, they went after our second line of defense, which is our law enforcement. And if you see a theme here, they're denying us the basic ability not only to protect ourselves, but to call on people, to call on backup, train law enforcement to come in and protect us. This is about control. This is about taking away the ability of people to protect themselves and be defended. That's the first and second line of defense gone. And that's why we, the patriots of Virginia, we have to rise up.
Mhm.
We have to unify like we did with the Second Amendment rally that was very peaceful.
It's a great rally.
It was incredible. You know, I was told I was Antifa's #1 target. I was told they wanted to dismember me, and yet I still chose to go and deliver a speech. It was that important to me, that freedom, defending the Second Amendment in such a critical time that I was willing to lose my life over it. This is one of those things that we have to draw the line in the sand on, and we need to defend it. And I will say, once session is over, we really need to look at filing injunctions in the lower courts, in the localities, against this attack on Second Amendment. We can't just let it go.
Mhm.
We've got to go on the offense. You know, as you all know, I'm in session right now, and in the Senate, we actually meet in person. We meet at the Science Museum of Virginia. The House Democrats, the House Republicans, they meet from home virtually, which is a whole other story in itself. We've never,
They're still getting paid as if they're in the office as well.
and never in the Virginia's history have we ever gone virtual. I mean, you're always expected to be present. I mean, we could not in the Senate even proxy a vote unless we were right there.
Mhm.
The Senate, I believe, is in a better situation than the House, as far as rules, as far as order, efficiency. But you know that they've passed police reform. They have passed legislation that would lessen the offense from a Class 6 felony down to a Class 1 misdemeanor for assault and battery on a police officer. What we have done is sent a message to law enforcement The message is this: we don't support you. That's what they're saying.
That's what they're hearing from legislation.
And now, y'all know I speak every day on the floor of the Senate against all of this terrible legislation. But the liberal Democrats have passed legislation, which is an all-out attack on our law enforcement. And thankfully, the qualified immunity did not pass.
Mhm.
Had it happened, we would have had a blue flu.
Yeah.
My friends who are committed, dedicated public servants are said that is a step too far. For me and my family, that is a step too far where I will personally be held liable for any missteps at all. You know, we need to do everything we can to defend our police, not defund our police. I would argue that we've never fully funded our law enforcement.
Anybody that's been in law enforcement would know that.
Yes, and listen, I've met with members of the Department of Corrections, I've met with sheriffs, police officers, and the one thing that they all tell me is that we need to fix a broken pay system. There's wage compression issues where you have more senior officers who are making similar or close to those who are entry level law enforcement. People getting trained, law enforcement officers getting trained and then moving to either the FBI or moving to a different jurisdiction in order to get better wages. Look, you can't blame them.
That's right.
Because they're trying to provide the best income to provide for their families, and you can't fault anybody for doing that. I believe that officers make $32,000 a year, and for a family of four, that qualifies them for public assistance, and that's embarrassing.
Mhm.
You know, we need to do a better job taking care of those who take care of us, just like we should be doing for our veterans. We need to also be doing that for our law enforcement. That didn't happen. That didn't happen under this Marxist leadership that's going on in Richmond. It was an all-out attack on our Second Amendment. It was an all-out attack also on our victims. As we saw, COVID was used as an excuse to release convicted murderers, convicted felons who committed not nonviolent offenses, violent offenses.
That's right.
We're talking murders. And earlier today, I was in Pound, Virginia, and we were talking to a family where her father had been murdered. And they have to appeal to the parole board every 3 years to try to make sure that they keep the murderer in jail, or in prison rather. And I've had to do the same thing with a good friend of mine whose brother was murdered. 99 murderers released, saying that COVID was the excuse. And here's what I would say. You are putting the rights and the needs of criminals ahead of law-abiding citizens and the victims and the families. And that's the type of criminal justice reform we've seen. Criminal justice reform, from what I have seen from this Marxist body, is an all-out attack on law-abiding citizens and being permissive and friendly towards criminals, empowering the criminals. When you don't support your law enforcement, you're sending a message to criminals. We're putting you in charge is what they're saying.
That's right.
Because the criminals will always get the guns. And in the absence of good leadership, in the absence of good law enforcement, the citizens are going to suffer. The citizens will suffer. Their businesses are going to suffer because, as we've seen in Richmond and areas, Democratic-run cities across the Commonwealth of Virginia, we've seen an increase in crime. We've seen an increase in murder. We've seen businesses being looted, police officers shot, an increase in crime altogether because we have local elected leaders who are Democrats, who are Marxists, who are not backing up our law enforcement officers. We see that in the Department of Corrections with soft leadership. You know, as Virginia's next governor, I will be a law and order governor. I appreciate Governor Allen's stance on fulfilling someone's promise, truth in sentencing, that took place back whenever he was the governor of Virginia. And what that means is that I believe it's up to 75%, that a convicted felon must complete the majority of their sentence, as opposed to getting off on serving only 25%. I know one of the things that I want to do is increase the age that you could be considered for geriatric release. Right now it's 60 years and 65 years, depending on how many years someone has served in prison. I think we need to increase that because people are living longer. And in my friend's case, the murderer was 65 years old when he committed the crime. And so I think we need to revisit that law. I will be introducing legislation to increase the age in which geriatric release can even be considered. I think it's very important that we protect the victims, those who are no longer here to advocate for themselves.
Right. Well, there's a lot to unpack in that because that was a good long answer. I mean, if you don't care, I'm just going to touch on a few of those points.
Yeah, please.
Because, you talk about, first off, I want to say, because we do have some folks that watch that are more liberal leaning. And one of the arguments that I hear from sometimes the guys, believe it or not, I talk to a lot of liberal folks, okay? They'll say, that, no one's trying to defund the police. Well, folks, go read the bills, okay? You're buying a story if you believe that no one's trying to defund the police, okay? Because if you read the bills, you will see that's exactly what it is. Some of the liberals, they say, well, what we really want is we want a more safety training, more qualifications. And that's something that I think maybe both parties could agree with. We want more funding for them. That's what that takes, is more funding, not defunding, right? So I would encourage any of our folks that are watching, if you think that what we're saying here is incorrect, go read the bills for yourself, okay? Don't just take someone's word for it, because we can see from the local debates, Mark Warner or Joe Biden can stand up there and say whatever they want to say, okay? And I would even say, folks, I tell all of our folks all the time, we say this all the time, fact check us. Don't just take our word on it, right? What I always encourage people to do is to dig into the answers for yourself. There's no better liberty than educating yourself. So hear what we're saying, hear what the other side's saying, and then go find out the facts for yourself. And you'll find out that what we're saying is exactly dead on. You mentioned the invasion on the Democrat Party. That's one of the things I also tell a lot of our Democrat friends who have voted Democrat forever because they've always voted Democrat. We understand how party politics works. But the thing that I try to encourage them is, again, ask yourself what values and what morals matter to you. And then look at the Democrat Party, and that's where you can see the invasion of the Marxists and the socialists that are coming in there. Now,
this is not the JFK Democrat.
No, it's not even the Democrats of the 90s. I mean, or even the early 2000s. I mean, it's been a slow, systematic process. I think the one thing I would say as a Republican that I would look at Democrats, and I have to give them credit for it, they're very strategic. They did a very good, the Soros and the Bloombergs, they did a very good job of strategically playing their cards. And I think that's what we see that unfolding. And it's disturbing to see how blinded some people, I think, still are. They don't even see that. But again, to our Democrat folks, what I would say to any Democrats, registered Democrats, is go look, ask yourself what morals, what values, does the Second Amendment matter to you? If it does, we're seeing a huge walk away campaign all across the U.S. Walk away, right? Step across the line this time and vote on your morals and your principles. To that degree, another thing you touched on, all across different states, you said we draw the line, right? This is not a line in the sand. I said it's a line of concrete, because another thing that we hear across Virginia, we hear it quite a bit in the southern part of the state, because of course that's part of the original state of Franklin, right? They say, let's just pull away from Virginia, right? Now, I'll be the first, our viewers know I'm a transplant. I came to Virginia about 16 years ago. But I've told people, I've said, if you run, it's only a matter of time before it comes to your door. Go to Tennessee, go to West Virginia, go to Kentucky. We're already seeing things happening in those states. And so it's no longer the time to run. I think that's a thing of the past, and that's what's led us to where we are. In fact, I've even mentioned our brothers and sisters in California, New York. I was the first to sit back and think, that 2A stuff will never happen here in Virginia. It's came across the line, and it's invading Virginia now. And that's again why I said we can no longer run. So I echo, I could go on and on about what you just said, because there's a lot to unpack there, but I echo a lot of what you just said. So thank you for that. That's terrific. So that again, and I know we know this last session, although there were the three main topics, the Democrats pulled it off topic. I mean, they took it down that path of defunding our police, which is exactly what it is. We're already seeing some police that are leaving. I want to make one more last comment, because I know there are some people that say but no one in the Democrat Party hates police, and no one in the Democrat Party does not like the police. I just, a personal experience, I'm not going to say any names here, but a liberal from Gate City, Virginia that I've even had conversations with, and I quote her in this. She says that some police officers probably behind the badge are good people, but they all deserve to die. And that's literally what she says, and that's literally her belief. So if you want to PM me and have conversations, I'll blank out the names and I'll send that to you. If you don't believe me, the thing that I also say to some folks that maybe with good intentions want some police reform, understand what you're fueling. Because when you say, yeah, I agree with this, you're fueling people that have that mindset, and that is terribly sad. I've talked to this individual. I think I understand maybe from a traumatic experience that she had as a younger individual that gave her this traumatic hate. And that's the other thing. We're seeing so much hate from the left. It's just a blind hatred. Guys, if hatred is what drives you, you need to read some more Corinthians in the Bible, okay? Because that's not what's supposed to drive you, okay? But so to my folks that sometimes we hear people say, well, no one really thinks that. I can promise you I have seen them. Sadly, I have talked to them. I try to talk to get through them. I don't know if it works, but I try. That's what I'll try to continue to do. So I just want to make some points, because I know that sometimes our viewers, they sometimes come back with those things. Thank you for allowing me to say a few words as well. Are there any particular concerns other than what you just mentioned? Is there anything else out of the session that you would say, okay, guys, you need to be aware of this?
Absolutely. We need to talk about elections. We had a number of bills that passed that will affect elections this year. I truly believe that if all the votes are counted, President Trump wins. Our congressional candidates win. Daniel Gade wins U.S. Senate. My concern is this. We saw bill after bill in which what I would just say in general is it seems like the Marxists are trying to add an element of confusion to the election to potentially delay the counting of the results. For instance, there was a discussion with one of the bills about having freestanding ballot boxes, unattended, unsupervised, where people could drop off their sacred ballot. That's unheard of. And I have a number of concerns with that. I did make some comments on the floor of the Senate that if you cannot keep the streets of Richmond from being destroyed, how are you going to keep those boxes from being destroyed?
Absolutely.
Where are you going to place those boxes? Just Democratic precincts? Which ones are going to get destroyed, do you think? The ones in the Republican precincts? I think there's a lot of room for shenanigans, which is why I've been emphatic. People need to cast their vote in person.
Yeah.
And thanks to legislation that was passed and went into effect July 1 of this year, we have basically 45 days to vote. Some of that, I don't remember how many days we have left to election day now, but I know our viewers do. Vote in person. Don't trust your vote to the federal government, to the Postal Service. They have already themselves said they cannot respond to the demand.
I always say, if you trust it that much, then bag up $10,000 in cash and mail it to yourself. And if you're comfortable doing that, then maybe you can give it a shot. I still wouldn't recommend it, But, and I know sometimes people say, well, voting should be easy. First off, I would say going in person is relatively easy. But there are some people that are homebound. And if you're in that situation or know someone in that situation, one of the big campaigns that we're doing with Scott County VA gun owners is helping get people registered to vote. And there is a process. If you cannot make it to the ballots, there can be people that are actually get certified and can help people with that if they're homebound to place your vote. Okay, so there are those are verifiable, they're certified, they're safe. Those are safe. Mail-in ballots, not so much. And I hope you don't mind me giving a pitch to Tim Anderson, but he did a post not too long ago. It was interesting because another liberal I was talking to one time, short story, they said that they don't trust government at all. That's what they started out with, right? Which actually I can somewhat agree with. I think we should always question our leaders. I think that's a healthy thing.
Trust but verify.
Trust but verify. That's absolutely right. That's a key to any finance thing. I was in auditing as well. So trust but verify, absolutely. So they started out saying they didn't trust government, and then I was explaining that Tim Anderson had done this, and I don't think it's the right term, but I believe maybe it's called provisional balloting, where you go in, if you don't have an ID, you basically sign a piece of paper that says, this is my name, this is my address, and I certify under punishment of felony, the I am who I say I am, with no photo ID, guys, none whatsoever. And then you turn that in, and they will essentially take that as a vote, right? Now, it was funny because this individual I was talking with, after I showed her that and explained it, showed her that Tim Anderson wouldn't test that. He tested it himself. Now, he did not, he put his name down, so his was a valid legal one. But essentially, all you'd have to know is a registered voter's name and address. Go in, and if you're willing to sign that, and basically put down that you could be charged with a felony, which, by the way, when you walk out, they're going to have no way to find you, right? And people were like, well, that wouldn't happen. Well, like I told you a minute ago, I've talked to people that are willing to, they said that police officers should die. If they're willing to go that far, what's it matter to sign a name?
That's right.
Right? So it's a huge vulnerability. Now, it's funny with this individual, because when I told them this story, they then started pulling up, VA Gov websites that said what the verification process was. And of course, I backed up and I said, hang on a minute ago. A minute ago, you said you don't trust government. Now you're saying you trust them based upon a government website.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. I mean, we saw Tim Anderson did that.
Right.
And I've thought about testing it, but I want my vote to count, so I don't think I'm going to test it that way.
Jeff, one of the other things that we discussed was they have legalized basically what would be considered ballot harvesting, which is now considered illegal, but would be considered legal.
Now, I've not heard of this one.
Ballot harvesting.
Okay.
And so I, as an individual third-party person or any organization, you could use your imagination on that, can go door to door and collect ballots and turn them in.
On their behalf.
Yeah, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. And, I think that the Marxists have made our election system less transparent, less reliable. More people, I think, are going to be uncertain of the results, which that can lead to a civil war when people don't trust the results of an election and they feel like they've been disenfranchised. If there's a fair process in place, people are more willing to accept the results and the outcome of an election than if they feel that there's some shenanigans involved, which leads me to why I will not participate in a Republican convention, ever. Over the past 10 years, I've been very involved with helping Republicans get elected. I've been doing that for over a decade. And I've seen the party shenanigans that go on in those Republican conventions, and I've seen many grassroots candidates, unbeknownst to many grassroots participants and voters. They were being used as puppets by the political consultants and the Republican establishment elite. I work behind the scenes. I've been a political director. I have been a campaign manager for congressional races, statewide races. I don't want to participate or have a hand in any of that. I just participated in, for myself as a candidate. Nick Freitas, who is a very good friend of mine, who won the 7th Congressional Republican nomination, had a convention, and we were outside in 104-degree heat index for about 10 to 12 hours. People were dropping like flies. It was very uncomfortable. You have to spend money to participate. You have to spend an entire day. Many of us work. I mean, it's very difficult for many people to take an entire day out of their life and their family and their schedule. People with kids like myself. I have 4 kids, but they're all grown now, but when they were younger, and I would attend these Republican conventions, like I said, I participated in all of them. There's shenanigans going on in those conventions, and I know this from being in leadership and watching the consultants and serving as counsel for candidates who are disenfranchised. It's happening. I won't run an election like that. I don't trust the Republican establishment elite with my run for governor. I will fully seek the Republican nomination. Look, I have the highest score, not only in the Senate of Virginia, but also in the entire General Assembly for freedom. I have a very high rating, the highest rating in the General Assembly from the Virginia Tea Party of Virginia. I'm all for liberty. And for anybody to even hint that I'm not a Republican after all the Republican candidates that I blood, sweat, and tears, sweat equity, help get elected, and then look at my score.
Yeah.
And my voting record. Listen, I'm 100% Republican. I don't ever want to run as an independent, and that's why I've come out early, back in February on President's Day, and said I will fully run for governor. I feel like the people of Virginia have called me. They said that, you're a voice for the people, back especially right after the 2A rally where I was asked to speak at that big, the infamous 2A rally on January the 20th. I was the voice for the people. While members of the Republican caucuses were caucusing in the Capitol, I was caucusing with the people. And they remember that. And, many people have said we want a loudmouth conservative. We're tired of the silent majority. We're tired of the Republican Party being silent, and you're the only one speaking up for us and being our voice. And I'm speaking truth. And unfortunately, the truth is controversial. But I'm still willing to speak the truth, even when it is controversial, because we need to identify and address the issues that are truly coming before us that no one wants to talk about.
Well, and I mean, so what you touched on there kind of goes back to what I talked about, the, questioning our leaders. I think that, to me, when you make the choice and you're led to go into public service, to me, I would not go into that position and expect that people just blindly follow me.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and I would say, Republican or Democrat, you should question. I mean, what I would even say to you, and I hope you don't mind me just being this blunt about it, but if you're running on a lot of these promises, if you were to get in there, if you prefer our next governor, and if you turn face, I would campaign against you. I would be like, guys, we need to go against her, because if you run on one thing and do something different,
absolutely,
you should be held accountable to what you've committed to, right? Now we know sometimes circumstances and situations can change, but there's a fundamental principles that you're running on, right? Pro Second Amendment, pro-life, pro the people, all these different topics that are important. And if you were to go in there and flip-flop, like we've seen a lot of politicians throughout our time
like
do.
Delegate Kirk Cox did when he was speaker, and he had the ability to be the leader, and to be a leader and to fight against the expansion of Medicaid. He didn't. He folded. He and Kilgore and others actually caved in under pressure. Now, what would I have done differently? If I were the Speaker of the House, I would have told Kilgore and others, if you, as the Republican, defect and you're a chairman, you're going to lose your chairmanship. If you go to get reelected, don't expect any money from the Republican House caucus.
Because you're turning against the people when you do that.
You are, and here's the deal. It goes in contradiction to what you ran on when you ran for office, that you were going to fight Medicaid expansion. That was one of the big pillars of our platform, fighting Medicaid expansion, because we know as the people that the Medicaid is meant for those who are mentally, intellectually disabled. It's not for able-bodied individuals. It's for those who are desperate. And I support 50-50, regular Medicaid, not expansion, not the Trojan horse.
That's right, where it makes sense, and don't take advantage of the system, right?
And what we're doing is we're hurting those people that need it and
Right.
flooding it with able-bodied people. So I'm a leader that has a backbone. I'm a firebrand Republican. I'm not a weak-kneed Republican. I am not afraid to take a stand on issues. There are other Republicans who have compromised on their values, whether it's Medicaid expansion, whether it's not supporting our sheriffs and helping them get raises, where there are other potential candidates who have mentioned to run for office. There are many issues. I've been true. I have experience and proven leadership that people can trust. My voting record proves that. You were talking about small business. I have a 100% rating with the National Federation of Independent Business, which means that all of my votes were pro-business votes, every last one of them. 100% pro-life. I have a 100% rating with the Family Foundation. Even these social issues, which, look, I'm unapologetic about where I stand. I don't need to hide on issues. I know how to defend myself. Anybody that thinks it's okay to murder a baby is not American.
I wouldn't say they're human.
They're vile.
Yes,
Our governor that we have right now is vile.
yes.
and he needs to go.
I know we're already past 30 minutes. Are you okay for go? We've barely even went to questions. I'm gonna, if we were, let's try like a little game here. Like, let's just try to bounce these really quick, right? So there are a few I do want to touch on because there were some questions that came up on our group. So there's been reports of some of the members of the campaign, of your campaign, being involved with Black Lives Matters and Antifa based on, rioting, protesting. What's your response to those accusations?
I have no idea, why anybody would ever say that. My staff we're all pro 2A. There's a guy named Mike Dunn, who I think is a Boogaloo boy. I didn't even know what that was when I went to that 2A rally. On the 4th of July, I was asked to go to Richmond and speak to a 2A group. It was an open to the public group. I was actually called earlier that day. I was told it was too dangerous to show up. I went anyway because I gave my word to speak at the Second Amendment rally, and I did. And I showed up. I had an AR-15. My security team had an AR-15. But we don't organize our own events. Those are done by the people. We just show up. And so we will show up anytime citizens get together and create a group. I'm going to come. I'm going to speak to their group. This one was open to the public. I don't look at an audience. The members of BLM are not labeled. They don't have BLM on their foreheads. They just don't. And I am not a person who is, I believe that all people are equal. And I believe in equal treatment under law, not special treatment under law. I'm going to talk to Black people, white people, brown people, red people. I don't care. And we don't know what the labels are until, and the Monday morning quarterbacks, want to critique and say, oh, you were talking to BLM. Well, I didn't know that it was a Black guy with a gun.
Yeah.
And we were having a conversation. So.
And I'd like to know. I mean, you've had a long down the campaign trail. Here you are talking to us, right? I mean, we can if we were some crazies, right? Here someone would say, well, you've been interviewing with these crazies right now. We're not. I'm sure you, but we've talked before. So,
See,
but you're exactly right. It can happen all the
talk to
time.
anybody.
That's exactly right. And there shouldn't be anything wrong with talking to somebody.
And
In fact, we need more talking, right?
Well, let me just be clear. In all my campaign speeches, and there are many who can testify that the different groups that I've talked to, I call BLM a terrorist group because that's what they are. They are a terrorist group, and I do believe that the Marxists are using BLM as a cover to reap destruction in our cities that are run by Democrats like Mayor Stoney, who have been complicit and even condoning, accepting of these activities by Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And I think people saw the pictures of me standing in the streets with Black guys with ARs, and they're making all kinds of evaluations and saying, well, we saw that person in this group. And, Jesus associated with everybody.
That's right.
And I am too. And if you want to criticize me for that, knock yourself out. I know who I am, and I know whose I am, and I know who I represent, and so do my supporters. I'm not going to be intimidated or bullied or put in a corner by people that want to misinterpret facts. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but not their own facts.
Right. So I want to come back in a moment and talk about some more of that unity and reaching across. And I think that's what we're going to be touching on. But I do have one more question. I know a lot of our users, there was a comment, and I can't remember the comment. I apologize. It's been a while back. It was on social media. But there was someone that I believe was kind of attacking you on social media. And there were, you had told them that there was a recent law that was passed by the Democrats around holding politicians, and you could basically charge someone for a perceived threat, right? And in general, I believe the conservatives fought against this. You had said to them, you said, hey, don't forget your governor passed this law, and I could use that against you.
Absolutely.
The question was, they said, okay, if you fight against this, Ms. Chase, Senator Chase, why would you threaten someone to use that? And
I love that question. I think it's a good question. So Delegate Bourne put forward legislation that did pass and go into law that said it's against the law to harass an elected official, to use any type of threatening or harassing language, whether you're a member of the General Assembly, whether you're a lieutenant governor, whether you're the governor, whether you're the attorney general, there's judges. I think there's some other groups in there, but generally speaking, and I fought against that because I believe that as an elected official, that I'm okay with people exercising their First Amendment right, allowing them to say what they want to on their page. Then there are people who take it to the next level.
Mhm.
And I've had my life threatened. That's why I have armed security. I will not tolerate bullies. I just won't.
Nobody should.
And people that want to threaten my life, I will prosecute them to the full extent of the law. Make no mistake. And so I've always said I will play by whatever laws or rules or games are on the table in general. If that passes and I have someone who is threatening my life, I'll use that law that's available to me to prosecute that person. I have no problems with that. People can call it what they want it. And there's a fine line. I mean, I think it's important that we allow people to express their grievances. I also support the First Amendment. And, you know, people get heated. I do too. I call the Democrats on the floor of the Senate traitors to the United States and the Virginia Constitution. I got cited by Senator Howell on Rule 51, whatever that is. And, you know, so I get a little heated myself, and I think the Constitution allows us to exercise our First Amendment right. Threatening someone's life is another situation altogether.
Agreed. And well, I would say if you don't get passionate, then it doesn't mean anything to you. You know, I've often, and I've jokingly said this, but I've been criticized for this too. But I've said, you know, a time long in the past, there used to be a time of duels. And I've said, you know, there's a part of me that wishes duels would come back, because then people wouldn't just campaign on everything. They would campaign on what they're really passionate about.
That's right.
Right? So to me, you should be passionate about it. And especially, again, to the reference to duels, if you're passionate enough to say, I'm willing to lose my life, then I believe it really matters to you. The question is how many people would really be passionate about Black Lives Matter? Or how many people would be really passionate about, we think that no one should have guns, if that's their thought, right? I mean, why does what I have, if I have, you know, 20 pairs of sneakers, what's that in your business? It doesn't hurt you. Now, if it's infringing upon your rights, if it's infringing upon your life, not your feelings,
Right.
but it's different, like you said, when it crosses that line. So I appreciate that response. Okay, we were talking a moment ago about maybe reaching over to the other side. I've heard some folks say that one of the concerns with Senator Chase's campaign is how is she going to unite all of Virginia? So there's just always this kind of, at least from Southwest Virginia, we kind of hear this, you know, Virginia ends at, like, you know, there's several different places they call that, right? Some people say it ends at, like, Richmond, right, if you go far enough. But, you know, this Northern Virginia versus Southwest Virginia, how are you going to reach out to Northern Virginia voters, where there's many that are heavier left leaning? And then how are you going to try to get around this whole division that we're seeing, not only in the state, but also, you know, left versus right? How are you going to reach apart, bring about some unity?
I'll be very honest with you. We're not going to be able to unite because the extremes are so far. You cannot find common ground with the Republic and Marxism. There's no compromising. It's one or the other. So you either double down, like I'm doing, on our principles, and you stand strong and you don't compromise on those issues. You cannot compromise on freedom. You can't compromise on life. The opposite of life is death. There's no compromise on these things. Listen, there are, and I'm in Northern Virginia as much as I am in Southwest Virginia, and all over. Listen, I'm all over Virginia. Make no mistake. And I just want to encourage your viewers that there are conservatives in Northern Virginia that share our values. We don't win Virginia by looking more like the Democrats.
We just get it, we just turn into Democrats.
It's like there's no difference. The Democrats will always vote for the Democrats. And the Republicans, there's some that will always vote for the Republican. It's the middle that we're vying for. And I believe that people want a strong leader. They want one that's not going to back down. That's why President Trump is so wildly popular right now. And, you know, people have made many comments about, well, we don't like his style or this, that, and the other. But, you know, when it comes to getting the job done, he's getting it done. I'm probably falling into that same category. I've been called Trump in heels. I've been called Annie Oakley of the Senate. I've been called a number of things, and that's okay. But people are flocking to my campaign all over Southwest Virginia, Northern Virginia, and Central Virginia, where I've already won by 10 percentage points, and my last Senate race is 2.5 times a House race. So, we're talking about Delegate Cox here. I have 2.5 times his territory, and I've already won 10 percentage of the vote. He barely squeaked by in his election. We want a winner. We want someone that knows how to win, has a history of winning. I've run everybody else's campaigns. In fact, Cox has called me to campaign in his elections, and I've gone door to door with him. But we need someone that's going to double down and not back down, not compromise on our values and our principles. Cox did that. Riggleman has done that. There are others who have talked about running that don't even have a voting record. How are you going to support someone who doesn't have a proven track record? I think that's why I'm seeing this early in the game. People are buying our campaign collateral. Look, I work for other candidates where you couldn't even give the campaign collateral away. People are buying it. They are acutely aware who the governor is right now, more so than they are, honestly, about any other race in Virginia, because he has taken away so many freedoms from so many people. The governor of Virginia is the most known race, which is why I filed back in February. Listen, as the Republicans, if we're gonna even have a shot at winning, we gotta do things differently. That's why I announced, part of the reason I announced back in February. I understand how campaigns work. I understand that we have fallen short with every statewide race, and we come close, and they've always said in the exit polls, if only we'd had several weeks, if only we had one more, 3 more weeks, we probably could have won. I want to make sure we win.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I started back in February. I have been vigorously campaigning for 8 months all across Virginia. And anybody that follows me on my Senator Amanda Chase Facebook page, they know I'm a hard worker. And I really appreciate the comment by Congressman Randy Forbes back when I ran for Senate the first time. He said, no one will outwork Amanda Chase. I am the go-to person of anyone in the Republican candidates. If they wanted to run for statewide office, Congress, I was the go-to person. I know how to win, and I'm a conservative. And I don't think it gets any better than that. I don't pay expensive political consultants. My first campaign finance report raised $200,000 in a month and a half. 88% of those contributions were $100 or less. Over 3,000 contributions. Listen, that sets records for grassroots support in a governor's race. It's tremendous. And this early out, I'm the only candidate who started this early and has this much of a lead.
Well, and just from a campaign perspective, I have to, I'll my personal opinion here, but I will have to say, I think that to me is one of the things I really commend you about from a campaign perspective, just starting early. So I know we're way over time. I know there's some members of our security team are kind of waving down. Can we have just a few more minutes? Is that okay? I want to go back on something you did say, because it was a very important point. Something I've talked about a lot about folks. And when you said that we can't meet in the middle. And if you don't care, I want to lean this for a second. So I'm going to grab a marker here. I've never had a dry erase board, and I think the camera's reversed. But Jay, am I good? Am I on the camera here? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. I'm going to work with my left. I think it's always right, but I want to highlight this. This is a great chance to visually show this. This is important to compile a lot of what we just talked about. So this, I know you all maybe on the camera. That's right. This is my left. This is my right. Okay, and when you were saying a few minutes ago, there's no more compromise because the middle is so far. Right now, we are at extremes, right? This is the current, let's say this is 2020, right? This is 2020, and this is left, this is right. When we were saying earlier about Democrats and the Democrats of the 90s, what we've done is the Democrats of the 90s, like this is like, let's just go like, 1990, right? This is my interpretation. I think this was the left and this was the right in 1990, okay? The middle ground was there. And this is the shift that I've seen now, because back then we could have some common ground conversations. And even though we still had a disconnection, the right was still in the right place. Now the left has went so far. This goes back to that invasion of the Democrat Party, right? Guys, if you're a Democrat, this is what you're probably thinking you are, right? The 1990 Democrats, your grandfather's Democrats. But the new left is like the new middle ground is the old left. And actually, this should be like, way over here somewhere, right? And this just
It
visualizes.
should be over there in Venezuela.
That's exactly right. I mean, and it's way off the screen. I mean, this board's not even long enough. But this is a perfect chance to visualize this. Thank you for allowing that. But just to put some visualization, because I think sometimes people don't realize how important what you just said is. I hear all the time, well, the right is not willing to move. I hear that a lot. Well, guys, I want you to understand the reason the right is not willing to come to the middle ground is because if we come to the middle ground, we are no longer in existence. The conservatives of our grandfathers no longer exist. The 2A no longer exists because even these folks back in the 1990s, Bill Clinton passed the bill in 1994 banning what they call the term that doesn't even exist, assault rifles, right? This is an assault marker. I'm going to throw this at Jason. That's an assault marker. I just assaulted Jason. It's an assault marker. Okay? So, again, the point of it is that's the problem is if we go to this middle ground, like you just said, you're exactly right. There is no middle ground because it basically puts us out of existence. So, thank you for allowing me. That was a little bit wild, but okay. What would be, and I'm just trying to jump some more questions. What would be your top three, let's make this like a 20-second answer, top three issues as governor?
Second Amendment. I would issue as many executive orders as needed to return our constitutional rights back to the plumb line and then limit my powers. Number one issue, Second Amendment of the Constitution. Second issue, education. Y'all, we don't just need a reform, we need an overhaul. We need to defund these liberal colleges and universities and public schools. I have proposed putting together a call center that would go directly to my office. That would allow parents and students to call in and report instances like what I've seen at VCU where students were asked to read a propaganda book that basically attacks Republicans saying that we're racist and elevates BLM and the Democratic Party. That's what they're doing. They are using propaganda at all ages, and it's got to stop. The only way that's going to stop is by defunding the schools that do that. As Virginia's next governor, I'll be bold enough to do that. That's my second issue. The third issue, we're going to get rid of all these executive orders, all these restrictions on forcing people to wear masks. Unbelievable. I don't wear a mask, as you all know. In the General Assembly, I'm the only legislator who does not wear a mask. Cox does. I think it's like being sheep. They have built a plexiglass wall around my desk because I refuse to wear a mask. You know what? Build the wall.
They should have told Northern this. I mean, if you didn't want a mask, you wouldn't have caught COVID, right?
Yeah. Well, the hypocrisy is crazy. So
Yes.
I would put an end to all these executive orders, which in essence would stop the attack on our businesses, allow our businesses to reopen, our schools to reopen. Let's just reopen. I mean, there's 6 other states that have already reopened.
Have freedom.
We need to get our economy back to work, stop the insanity of the executive orders. That's just my top 3. There are so many other things that I want
And it's tough to get the top 3.
That's the top 3.
I want to back up because I just made a kind of maybe a little rude comment about Northern. Guys, we need to be praying for Northern. Okay? I really think anybody that catches this, and I'm a believer in the Bible. The Bible says pray for your enemies. So if you want to take this, he said Northern's my enemy. Personally, guys, I think he is a tyrant. And if you go back and if you look at what our forefathers saw as what defining a tyrant is, it is someone that stands against God's laws. There's 4 pieces to it, and I'm not going to go into all of it, but essentially anyone that stands against God's laws for man is a tyrant. And if you just take the one thing that Northam said around the baby that's being born, and then let it lay on the table, and then let the doctor and the mother make a decision, that's murder. There's nothing more fundamental. I mean, you're going to hear me say this. Take the 2A and throw that out the window. Take what he said about that child, and that's enough right there to be, to me, not only not a tyrant, but you're not even a human if you think of that way of looking at life. So
Look what God did with judgment. If you look back
That's
into the Old Testament, and they were supposed to leave no survivors behind.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also judgment, which
Yeah.
there's also judgment.
Yeah. So we should pray for them. I know we've got a lot. I'm gonna try to see if there's anything else. I think I'm gonna, because we're, guys, so full disclosure, Amanda asked me to try to keep this to 30 minutes. We're at an hour. So you're on a super run here. I can't say thank you enough. I really appreciate it. We do have a few things for you. We've got some, and all of our viewers have not seen these yet, but we've got some custom stamped coins that we want you to have. And we're also going to give you a selection of some 2A coins that we're stamping. These are legal tender. We're going to get these in circulation. So guys, be keeping an eye out for these. It's 2A with the A that has the rifles. So we're going to let you have those and take those back, give them to your family, friends, whatever, spend them. But again, I know we didn't get through all the questions, but I think in general, in your answers, I think we bounced around.
Well, one thing that I want to assure people is that I'm not bought and paid for by the pay-to-play system in Richmond. It's one of the big things that I've exposed that I think a number of the Republican establishment elite are extremely upset about. I have exposed the caucus dues of $10,000 a year or more for legislators when we make 18 grand a year. That's extortion. It's ridiculous. They're making legislators beholden to the lobbyists and the PACs. It is why we are seeing the legislation we're seeing, the bills being passed. And I figured all this out. It took me 2 years, but I figured it out. And now I'm exposing it. And I think people need to understand we need a candidate that's not beholden to the PACs and the lobbyists. That's why I'm running my campaign like a business. For folks who want our yard signs, they're already available. We have T-shirts, hats, pins, you name it. And we're running our campaign like a business. If anyone is interested in purchasing those things, they can actually go to our website, which is chase4va.com.
Chase4va.com. So guys, if there's anybody commenting on there, if you got to put that comment on there, put a link on there, that'd be great. Again, I mean, I could go on. I could talk to you all night. I know you've got to be exhausted. It's been a long day. By the way, real quick, because I know we had some of our viewers that were at Dungannon last night that were, they had to leave before Amanda showed up. Amanda was telling us before we went live that she was riding. Can you tell us just real quickly what horse it was you were riding last night?
It was the horse that won the blue ribbon. Sherry is her first name. I don't remember the name of the horse. I've got a new team here with me. But it was fun. We had a really good time and just enjoyed the atmosphere. Look forward to going back. And
the horse park is popular in Scott County, so
yes.
We know some folks didn't get to catch her there, but she was busy all day long. Just as it is tonight. I mean, we'll catch you off guard tonight, right?
Yeah, so I'll be in Southwest Virginia until Tuesday. So this is the 5-day run that I've got here in Southwest Virginia. I think this is my 7th or 8th trip to Southwest Virginia. I have actually folks on my team who live in Southwest Virginia. So I'm taking Southwest Virginia very seriously, as I am all of Virginia. I think all of Virginia matters.
If they follow you on Facebook, I guess, will that be the best place for them to follow to see where you're going to be?
Yes, my Senator Amanda Chase Facebook page is where people can go. And we've just had, I think, 135,000 followers. We have we have actually almost the largest social media presence on Facebook of any other politician, including the Democratic side, other than one of the Republican, which is Nick Freitas, who's my buddy.
Well, again, I know we went over, and I'm going to pull up, because one of the things I always like to do on our show, is there any closing thoughts before I want to close this out in prayer, if you don't mind?
No, I appreciate that. Listen, I just want to encourage everyone that I believe that we will win Virginia. If every vote is counted, President Trump gets reelected, U.S. Senator Gabe will have him, we'll have our congressional candidates will win. My concern is the cheating. It's so important, if you haven't already volunteered to work at your local registrar's office, that you do that. They're going to need the help. And when the polls close on the last day of voting in person, which is Tuesday, November the 3rd, we want you to follow on the side of being in the registrar's office so you can ensure the integrity of our election. We know it's going to be a long, drawn-out process. We know we probably won't know the results overnight. We know that. But we need good people that are in Fairfax and a lot of these other Democratic strongholds. They're on election night and beyond our people inside counting those votes. So sign up. You actually get paid to do it, to work on election day and to help out in the registrar's office. There is, my understanding, a huge shortage across Virginia.
And guys, so DeLynn Lawson and others, the other admins in our group, reach out to us. We have resources available to help you If you need to learn how to get registered or help others get registered to vote, we can get you lined up with folks in Scott County or whatever county you're in. Reach out to your local registrar, the registrar's office. They can help you out, okay? I would also just add to that just a little bit, if you don't mind. Guys, I think it's easy to sometimes sit back and get complacent and think that we've got this, right? Trump's going to win. We've got this. Complacency, I think, right now is going to be our worst enemy. If you sit back and think, I'm not going to take the time to go vote because he's got it. That mindset is what's going to cause us to lose this. I would like to see a landslide victory across the board, right? Daniel Gay, right? We know Daniel Gay. We've talked with him. You know, Trump, right? We've got November coming up, and that's what we really want to try to focus on is November thing. So I would love to see some landslides. So guys, I don't care, you know, if you have all the word that every single person in the entire county voted, you're like, I'm the last one, I'm not going to go vote. No, go vote. Let's just have 100% turnout. Rural areas, particularly, are terrible about turnout, right? We know this. This is a statistic. It's usually like 30, 40%.
You know why? They don't have a candidate they like.
There you go.
They have a one-toast candidate. They got a fire right now.
There you go. So you got someone to talk about. You got someone to get out, get you fired up, and get out
Right.
of there, right? So guys, you've got to get to those booths. Definitely go in person, right? You mentioned NAS earlier, guys. What I would also, we know that in our county we have some board of supervisors that have some medical conditions. Guys, I'm respectful. If you want to wear that, I'm sure if you saw one wearing a mask, you're not going to walk up and start breathing in their face, right? We all need some love. We need some respect. I'm like you. I tend to look at it like you. I'll be completely honest. So, but I still am also respectful of others. I think reaching across, having that conversation is important, but not going all the way to the left. Just to clarify. So, there was a verse of scripture that I found, and I apologize, guys. I left my Bible in the car, so I've got the electronic one here. But it's 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 1 through 2. It says, I urge then, first of all, that petitions, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and all those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. Now, we don't have kings anymore, although there's some that would probably love to be kings, and they think they are kings, and they put out orders like they think they're kings. But the point of this verse of scripture I want to point is the last piece of that. We are working, we are fighting, we're battling to be able to try to live peacefully and quietly in godliness and in holiness, right? And unfortunately, guys, what's invading from the left is, look at the Democrat cities. You said it earlier, you referred to it. We see what's getting promoted. So I mean, I just wanted to throw that verse of scripture. I will be praying for you. We've got more interviews coming up. We're going to be interviewing some other folks as well. So we're praying for all of our leaders. I pray for your safety. I hate to hear about some of the threats that have come to you. Guys, threats are real. They really do happen. I don't know your personal story, but I know from just the folks I've talked to, I know it's real and it's sad. So to all those folks, if you're watching this, we know we've got some trolls on here. Guys, we love you too. And I'm going to say that because we're going to still pray for you. We pray for our enemies. There's a funny song about that, about something about, having a pot fall on your head or something. But in all seriousness, we should pray for you, right? And we do pray for you. We should pray for our enemies. So we will pray for everybody and pray particularly for our leaders. And that, God should continue to guide you. And that if it's in God's will, that's what I always, it's hard for me to sometimes give in God's will. But I think it's important, right? And if...
You know what I believe?
Tell me.
I believe I must have for my generation. I believe I will win. And I think any of these other candidates that consider a run for governor are really wasting their money. I feel that with all my heart. We need a leader, we need a fighter, and quite honestly, we need a mom to go in there and clean up Richmond. And I feel like God's called me to do this. I feel confident I'm going to win, and I really do hope those who are considering running for governor do get understand. I've been running for 8 to 9 months. They're already behind. They're not going to win. Get there. Let's unify. You're talking about.
We need to be behind one candidate.
I've already identified reasons why they won't win. They've already compromised on many areas. I haven't compromised. Find one vote I've compromised on. Haven't done it.
Well, if you don't, and I know we said we've got to unite around one person. I think the big challenge, if we separate the votes, I know, guys, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
So we need to do it early.
We need because matter of fact, I mean, the reason that we have the governor we have now is because votes got split last time.
That's right.
We can't have that happen again. So we need to unite around the single best candidate. So the campaign that you've been doing, I love that you've been in Southwest Virginia. I'll be the first to say that's just my opinion. I'm throwing it out there. We don't get a lot of attention down here in Southwest Virginia.
And now everybody else is like, well, maybe I'll campaign in Southwest Virginia.
Yeah,
It's like they're following my lead.
That's right.
I'm the one that's doing the videos about shooting, now all of a sudden Republicans are coming out of the closet shooting their guns. It's just, it's amazing. I'm a leader. So, I'm just encouraging people, support the leader, support the one that's been the voice with you from the beginning. You're going to have newcomers that have a revelation, that they're supposed to run. And I just really question their intentions in running when when they heard I was going to announce, where were they? It's 8 months into this. So,
Understand.
anyway, you know how I feel. I'm a firebrand. I'm not going to beat around the bush.
Well, we should always be transparency is good, even if transparency is blunt, right? That's okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to close out in prayer if you don't mind.
That'd be great.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just want to thank you, God, for this evening, Lord. Thank you for Senator Amanda Chase for being here, Lord, and just giving her the strength. I know she's had a long day. Lord, I went way over time. Lord, I deserve some punishment for that. Lord, I thank you also for allowing everyone to just maybe look past that punishment. But Father, in all seriousness, God, we just want to thank you for all the blessings we have in life. Lord, even though we know we have a lot of challenges ahead of us, Lord, we have a lot of things that we struggle. Lord, I want to encourage all of our viewers and everyone that ever hears this, Lord, to be thankful for what they do have. Lord, we still live in the greatest country in the world. I absolutely believe that. We still have a lot of freedoms, and I call them our God-given freedoms, Lord, because the Constitution is just simply there to say about what rights are protected that are unalienable from us. They were endowed upon us, upon our Creator, by you, God. They are God-given rights. And Father, even though those are under attack, Lord, we should always be thankful for what we've got. But at the same time, Lord, I ask for the strength and the courage to be vigilant, to be honest, Lord, and even if we have to have a hard conversation with someone that maybe hates us or maybe doesn't agree with us, Lord, we do it with love. We can still have a hard conversation. We can still have those difficult conversations. We can still be stern. We can do it with love, because we should love our enemies. We should love everyone. We should love our neighbors. Father, I really want more love in our country, Father. So the evil that's here, Lord, I ask that you give us the strength to drive that evil out. Let us all work together, come together, and as you talk about in Corinthians, let everything that we do be in charity and love. And Father, again, I just ask that you put your blessings and your touch of protection over all the candidates that are running, Father. We've got folks that are passionate, and that's okay. That's good. We should be passionate. But Father, just ask that, again, that we look past our individual desires and we look to you and look for guidance from you. If it's your will, Father, that's what we should want, even if it's not what our personal desires are. So, Father, again, just ask for your guidance and give us that strength to know that whenever you're leading us in a certain direction, Lord, that we take your lead and we follow you. And Lord, just watch over us, protect us, and in all things, Lord, just keep us safe. All these things in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thank you very much. So, guys, we have more interviews coming up, and until then, next time, Fred Chase, Sister Chase, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. See you guys next time.